Now that we have created our letters with strips of paper and taken a photograph of them with shadows cast, it's time to draw the photograph. So I went on and printed my picture. You can work from the picture on your phone or the picture on your computer or tablet, and that's fine. I just printed mine so that you guys could see that I was looking at something while I'm drawing it. I'm not just trying to draw it from my head, and I don't just have the letters sitting in front of me trying to draw it from life. Normally, that would be a great thing to do, except for I would be in the dark because the only light that I had on was this. So I'm going to look at this, but I'm going to draw on this paper. And I've already started sketching it out just a little bit, so I'd have some guidelines. So again, I'm looking at my picture to draw from, and this, let's see it. And I'm just going to use a pencil to sketch out the letters. I might go back with a ruler to make them neat, but that's actually not necessary because if you notice in the picture, these aren't quite perfectly straight. They kind of curve and warp a little bit. So that's fine. But the first thing that we're going to do is sketch. And so I'm just going to start with the letters. Like I said, I've already given myself some guidelines, which is how I'm going quickly, but I didn't want to take any more of your time than necessary. And I'm using a dark pencil right now. You'll use like a regular everyday pencil. Mechanical is fine, or number 2 pencil, just whatever you have around the house. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And so in our slideshow, this is our first step, which is to draw out the letters. I really liked this picture because I liked the cast shadows in it. But when I went to draw it, I found that it was a little tougher than I originally thought because the angle on the A is so strong. I'm basically looking directly above it. And being that it's just paper, thin paper at that, it's a little tough. Now, for this assignment, you actually have 3 days. So you have plenty of time to take your time and do a good job. And of course, the first part of that is going to be your drawing. So I've drawn out my letters. Now I'm ready for step 2. Step 2 is to draw the cast shadows. So if you look at my photograph, you see there's a cast shadow here and here, 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 here. Even on the letters, on the letter itself, there's a shadow cast. There's much darker shadow here, 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 and then there's lighter shadows here. But I want to sketch those out as well so that when I go to shade, I'm ready to go. And I got to make sure and get the one that's on the letter. That's importante. Some of your cast shadows may be blurry, but they still have an edge. There's still a line. So we're making sure to get that line. Okay, and those are my cast shadows. Again, I kind of pre-drew this out very lightly so that it would be quick on the video. I don't expect anybody to be that quick. I was honestly just tracing out what I drew earlier. So anyway, just so that you wouldn't have a waste of time. So that was step 2, was to draw out the cast shadows. Now, going back to my picture, I took one of my extra strips. So I had several extra strips, and I made a value scale. And I'm sure y'all remember how to do this. We've done it in pencil, we've done it in paint. So I used my pencil really darkly here and got lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. So now what I want to do is I want to use my value scale to figure out what my darkest areas are, my lighter areas are, medium areas, and so forth. So like, for instance, I see that this part of the H is very bright. So I'm going to assign that, either my 0 or my 10 miles an hour, a very light value. It's kind of between. Okay. Then this part of my H is a little darker. So I've got to figure out where I am. So I'm going to use that value scale, and I think it's right in there. That looks like a pretty good match. Okay, so now I'm ready to shade. So since this is very light, I'm going to use my pencil very lightly, and that's pretty much shaded. Okay, now I'm going to go to the upper part of my H and find a little darker right in there, okay, because this is where I'm trying to match. So that's almost my darkest value. It's not quite, but it's almost my darkest value. So again, I'm looking at my photograph, using my value scale to figure out how darkly I need to shade things. So I know on this one that I'm going to put a little more pressure on my gas pedal. If you remember that from the previous values lesson. And I know that this area is a little lighter and this area is a little darker. So I'm going to put a coat of my darkness on that, but I'm going to put more coats on the areas that are darker. And I'll come back with a Q-tip and blend this when I'm done. Okay, but that's pretty much that value, and of course that's saying white. Now for this side, I've got to look again at my value scale, and I'm pretty much a mid-tone at the top, but at the bottom it's a little lighter. So at the bottom I'm closer to here, and at the top I'm closer to here. So I've got to pay attention to that. So this is how, when we first started with this class, I told you that I was going to try and teach you how to see. These are the things that you need to see, that there is a difference between here and here as to how dark and how light. So I'm going to use my pencil and very lightly at the bottom and a little darker at the top. Okay. And so that, another coat, that is pretty much my H. But then we get to these cast shadows, and the cast shadows need to be shaded as well. So when I look at my cast shadows, I'm way down here. I'm all the way at the darkest I can go. So, oops, I forgot one. I'm going to use my pencil, but when I'm shading, I usually turn my hand this way. I'm going to use my pencil like a pencil and darken this in pretty good. And this as well. And this little bit. And then when I look, there's a little bit right here under the edges of the paper. So I'm going to come in with my pencil there as well. And now I'm ready to move on, or I'm ready to blend. This is what I've tried to accomplish here while we're online in the video. That has a little more darkness. And again, like I said, when it's all said and done, I can come back and blend with my Q-tip if I like. But I'm not going to keep you. I think one letter is sufficient. If you need to see more, if you have questions, of course you can ask. But basically, I'm just going to finish my drawing, finish shading, and that's it.